Greetings, Flosstube. It is Saturday, January 6th, 2018. It's just about 8 o'clock here, 7:58 a.m. Coming to you from a very cold, miserable Western Massachusetts. I wish I didn't know this, but the wind chill tomorrow when we're getting ready to go to church is supposed to be minus 21. So, I don't see the point of going that high, counting that low, rather. I mean, it's like heat index. Why count how hot it is after a certain point? I mean, is 115 any hotter than 100? No, it's just it makes you more miserable thinking it is. And likewise, minus 21 is no different than minus 6, but or 0 degrees, but it just makes you more miserable thinking about it. So at some point, it's just cold. It doesn't matter how cold it is. But anyway, that's the lovely temperature that we're going to have tomorrow. Fortunately, though, it's a somewhat sunny day, so at least there's not a threat of more snow. We probably got about 8 inches in that bomb cyclone thing. I mean, really, that was so overblown calling it that. I know there's a technical term for it, and I know that it's, a meteorological term, but seriously, weather gets bad up here in the winter. It's supposed to, it's New England. We're close to Canada. We're supposed to get bad weather. If it was 60 degrees here right now, we'd be like, wait a minute, what's going on? And we have had winters like that before, where we were wearing short sleeves in February, and it's like, wait a minute, something's really wrong here. But, it's New England. It's supposed to be cold. I wish it wasn't as cold as it is. Like the lovely Abby Bella Stitch said, frozen nose hairs are no fun. But it is what it is, and this is where I live, so I've got to deal with it. Doesn't mean I have to like it, but I have to deal with it. So anyway, to cut a long story short on the weather, I thought I would come shoot my last little bit of my WIT video before my husband gets up. Just because I figure I can do like maybe a half-hour video and it'll take a few hours to upload, and I can actually have this uploaded on the same day that I film it for once. Don't have too many more whips to share with you, but a few. My husband was so funny. He was like, honey, if you do your video when you get up, make sure you have coffee first. And he has a very good point. I am not the most coherent person before coffee. So I have my big vat of coffee here. And this is a mug that actually my best friend gave me and Bill a set of these mugs for our anniversary years ago. And there's a red one that says Jenny and Bill. Since my husband doesn't drink coffee, I'm the one that uses these the most, but I like the size. You need a good big coffee mug. I mean, like when I think about my grandmother when she used to drink coffee out of just the little coffee cups, it's like I'd have to drink 5 of those to get any. And I do have coffee cups like that because they came with my the everyday China pattern that I chose when Bill and I got married. But still, you need a mug if you're like me. A little cup of coffee isn't going to cut anything. Oh, and speaking of, for any of you Starbucks fans out there, yesterday I tried a really interesting and really good new Starbucks coffee. For those of you who like mocha coffee, they have one now called the black and white mocha, which is basically dark chocolate and white chocolate in the coffee. And it was actually pretty good. I thought it might be a little too sweet because I don't use sugar in my coffee as a general rule. But it was actually really good. So if any of you Starbucks fans out there are looking for a new coffee, that's a good one to try, especially since as soon as the holidays were over, they killed all the holiday flavors that I liked. Which kind of sucks because I think peppermint mocha should stay around all year. And the caramel creme brulee is good too, but anyway, if they sold those coffees all year round, they wouldn't make as much money on them during the holidays, so yeah, that's the cynical side of me coming out this early in the morning, folks. But the coffee hasn't quite kicked in yet, so yeah. Anyway, so where should I start with these? I've got a few more to share with you. I'll just start with what's on the top of the pile. I'll just start with what's on top of the pile here. Now, this one is one that you've seen before because I've been working on it since 2016, summer of 2016. It's the Rosewood Manor Old Glory sampler, which I believe I bought at 123 Stitch. And this was the first, well, this was actually the second Rosewood Manor pattern I bought, because I've got the one, what is it? Something about a garden. It's flowers and everything, but I never started that one. That one's still in my stash. But of course, when I saw this, with my love of all things patriotic, I had to have this one and added it to my stash. And I started it, like I said, in June of 2016. And I've gotten a little bit more done than the last time you saw this in one of my videos, but not a whole lot. I've been working on the, which flag is this one? Let me see. The nice thing about this pattern booklet is that she tells you about the history of the flags that you're stitching. Let's see. The flag to the right with the circle of stars, 48 star flag. No, that's not the right one. Yes. Okay, this is the flag that I'm stitching on now represents a flag that was salvaged from an umbrella made for presidential campaigns that occurred during 1876 to 1889. So that's kind of an interesting little tidbit to know. And that flag that was stitched out of the umbrellas is the one that I'm working on now, that has the circle and the square of stars. Working on the stripes there so that I can get that done. Next time I stitch on this, I'm probably going to do a little bit of the stripes and then go on to maybe stitching the waves across the top or something, just for a break from stitching stripes. But the thing that I like about this pattern is that it's actually a pretty good mix of counting and what I call focus stitching, where you have to count, and then the just fill stitching, the mindless stitching that I enjoy, to take a break from having to focus on a piece. Because once you get a stripe established, you don't have to count after that, because it's 3 rows of red and 3 rows of white, and there's 13 stripes in every flag. So once you get that first, you count that first, like here, the first red stripe, the first row of the red stripe there, I counted, but then after that, you just fill in. So it's kind of makes it nice, because you don't have to be so concerned with, like in the blue field here, of course, I had to count that to make sure that the pattern of the stars came out correctly. But then when you're putting in the stripes, you can just kind of sit back and just let the flow happen, and you don't have to be so focused on it. So I like that aspect of this piece. And like I said, it's it's patriotic. So yeah, it had me at the very beginning. It had me for the patriotism. And I don't know how well it shows up with my crappy lighting in this apartment, but I'm stitching it on Picture This Plus Heroic, which is actually, for Picture This Plus, it's a very subtle fabric. It doesn't have all the in your face like some of the Picture This Pluses do. It's just got little streaks of red and blue on tan fabric. So I'd say anything you're doing patriotic-wise, Americana-wise, you would probably enjoy stitching it on Picture This Plus. And for those of you who don't stitch on linen, they do have Ada, and you can get it in the Heroic colorway as well. So that's a really nice fabric. And it was the called for fabric. And I just happened to have a piece of it in my stash, and I was looking at the pattern one day, and I was like, wait a minute, I think I have the fabric. So I went ahead and started it. And there's literally only 4. Yeah, there's literally only 4 colors in this, because it's like vintage flag colors. So it's not like what you think of as a traditional red, white, and blue. It's like a burgundy and like a dark navy, so that it looks vintage, because they're all vintage flags. So I hope to make some more progress on that one this year. I'm probably going to put this in my Olympic stitching rotation, because I've decided that in February I'll work on a lot of my patriotic stuff, especially since the Olympics are in South Korea. And especially because my husband has a friend who's a battalion commander over there at, what's the name of the place over there? Is it Camp Charlie? I can't remember the name of it. I don't mean to be offensive to our servicemen and women. I just can't remember the name of the camp that we have over in South Korea. But one of Bill's friends from high school is over there now. So yeah, I'll be stitching it in his honor as well. Because I'm pretty sure our forces over in South Korea are going to be going back crap crazy trying to provide security for the Olympics. But that's a whole other story. And you know me, I try not to politicize my videos. I kind of leave that to my blog. And even on my blog, I don't politicize that much. Because I just don't feel that that's why people come to see me talk about cross stitch, not politics. So anyway, now the next piece that I actually worked on a little bit on New Year's Eve in a vain attempt to try to convince myself it's warmer than -21 or whatever it is out there. I don't even want to know what it is out there right now. I can look out the window and see the bird feeders swinging in the breeze, so I'm like, okay, I don't want to know. I've got my hot coffee. I'm inside. I'm in my nightgown all bundled up in my worn fleece robe, so yeah, let's just leave it at that. But when I'm trying to get warmed up, I am going to turn to, and some of you have seen her stitched because a few of the Mirabilia aficionados have stitched her, Leilani the Hula Girl. And so far, I've just got to finish one last little piece of her hair down there, and then I can start her skin and her body. I'm stitching this on, picture this, plus 32 count Lugana in the Masquerade pattern, which this is what I was referring to when I said the other one wasn't as in your face as some picture this plus fabrics can be, because as you can see, this is a jade green kind of with a lot of bright purple streaks in it, but I love it because it made me think of the tropics and it made me think of like hibiscus blossoms. So I'm stitching her in honor of our trip to Hawaii in 2016 that we took with the football team. We were there over Thanksgiving. We went to Pearl Harbor, a very solemn Thanksgiving at Pearl, you know, that kind of thing. And the only reason we got to do that, that's not usually part of the itinerary when teams play Hawaii, but the base commander at Pearl, his wife is a UMass grad, so we kind of got the special treatment for that. It was kind of fun because that wasn't something that, because like BYU played Hawaii over Thanksgiving this year and they didn't go to Pearl. Well, they went and did the tour, but they didn't get a personalized tour like we did, and they didn't get Thanksgiving on the base. So that's kind of fun. That's kind of a fun, cherished memory to have. So I'm stitching her in honor of our trip, and she's the first Mirabilia. I've got I'll show you my other Mirabilia in a little while, but she's the first Mirabilia I actually started. And I've really taken a shine to stitching with beads lately. I haven't done a lot of it, but the bead stitching that I have done, I just absolutely adored. So I'm just all like, yeah, it's all about the bling. And she's got some pretty bling. The beads I've got for her are really, really pretty. So she's going to be fantastic. So that's going to be, and I like the Karen water lilies too. It's the first time I've ever used any of the Karen threads, and it's really pretty. So, so yeah, that's going to be exciting to see that grow and see that come into fruition. She's not that big a piece, so hopefully I can get a lot of progress done on her this year. I'll probably take her with me on vacation again, because that seems like, I mean, Hilton Head's the perfect place to work on a piece like that. Then the next in my Patriotic Wild Hair series, as I'm calling it, just because I got a wild hair to start all these things and I haven't done much with them, is I'm doing the Clouds Factory Epic Presidents. I started that this past summer. Just, it looked like an awesome piece. And not to get political here, but it does include Donald Trump because he is our president. But it also has a little Statue of Liberty figure, and you could stitch that in place of, if you didn't want to stitch Trump in, you know, you could stitch in the Statue of Liberty instead. So it does give you a way to, if you want to do it but you just don't want to stitch him, you could complete the pattern and just put the little Statue of Liberty in there, which I thought was nice because they were recognizing that it's not necessarily something that people are going to want to do or not want to do. Personally, he's our president. I'm stitching him. But, you know, it was nice that Clouds Factory realized that there would be some people who didn't want to put him in, and then they gave you a little way to, you know, finish off the piece without having to stitch him if you didn't want to. But that's as political as I'm getting with this. My apologies to those who that offends. So I haven't gotten a whole lot done, but George Washington, he's standing proud and tall, powdered wig and everything. And I just love these. And this is probably one of those pieces that's going to go by fairly quickly if I actually just sit down and put some work to it. I started this on one of my short work days over the summer. And of course, you know me, red, white, and blue, patriotism, that's my bag. So there's Mr. Washington, and he's looking good. And hopefully what I plan to do is, as I share this, just share some random trivia about the presidents. I'm going to try to find something that maybe people don't know. You know, like for George Washington, he's the only president of the U.S. who has ever served in a foreign army, because he fought with the British against the French and the natives in the French and Indian War. So he's the only president who ever served in a foreign military. And I'm going to try to have little trivia tidbits like that for each president. Try to, you know, just impart some little thing that maybe even I didn't know. My husband practically could have been a history double major in college. He studied mass communications with a concentration in film. So he did a lot of film studies and screenplay writing classes and cool things like that. He really had a very cool major. But he took enough, history was just something he was interested in, but he took enough history classes. He could have declared a double major, but he didn't. And I don't know how many classes he was off of having enough classes to have a major in history, but if he was off, it wasn't by many. Maybe he needed 2 classes more to do a history double major, but he didn't go that way. I think he minored in history, so he is a really good fountain of like presidential trivia and stuff. And I will say right now, I'm related to 2 of the presidents. Not anyone cool, though, sadly. I'm related to William Henry and Benjamin Harrison, but yeah, more on them when I get to them. But so yeah, I'm related through my dad's mother's side of the family to the Harrisons. So, but contrary to popular belief, he did not die from a cold because he stood outside and gave the longest inaugural speech in presidential history at that time, standing outside in March in the cold weather in Virginia with no coat on. That's a myth, but I will give you that information more when we get to that particular part of the epic presidents. But yes, I am related to William Henry and Benjamin Harrison. Okay, so that's the epic presidents. Gonna have fun with that one. Now this one. Oh, such a long story to this one. All right. Everybody's seen her. Everybody loves her. Everybody wants Weichelt to re-release her. I don't know why Weichelt doesn't just re-release her, because Nora Corbett has said that's fine with her if they want to, but it's up to them to do it. Of course, we all know Lady of the Flag. Now, for those of you who are new to cross stitching or new to Mirabilia or whatever, this pattern is one that Nora Corbett designed right after 9/11, and she designed it as a tribute to those who died. Now, after 9/11, I hadn't been stitching that long, but the minute I saw this, I added this to my stash. I think I actually bought it from someone on eBay, because I initially, when I bought it as a kit, but it came very sloppily put together. So when I kitted it up this time, I bought the floss and the beads myself. But yeah, so of course, like I've said, I've been lifelong into patriotism and flags and Americana and stuff. So of course, when I saw her, I had to add her to my stash. But look at this. I was 9 years in. I was still stitching on Aida, 14 count Aida. No offense to anyone who does. I'm just saying I was in no way ready to take on a project of this magnitude. I had never stitched anything at that point. I had never stitched anything probably bigger than a 5x7, because the largest piece I stitched in the early aughts, as the young ones say these days, was in 2002. Oh Lord, it looks miserable out there. I'm just watching snow blowing across the window. Sorry, I got distracted for a second. But in 2002, I did a piece for my parents that framed was an 8x10. So yeah, in 2001, I was nowhere near ready in my cross stitching to start this. And of course, the sad thing is that it's been discontinued. It's been discontinued for a while. And of course, people are selling it on eBay for ridiculously stupid amounts of money, $200, $300, $400. But there have been people on Stitch Mania who have been stitching this. There was one lady who did an amazing color conversion. I don't think I would ever trust myself to convert a piece this big. I might swap out a few threads here and there, but to completely color convert a piece like this, but she used colors that made it look more like the Statue of Liberty, like the greens and the copper greens and stuff. So when she was posting, I got a wild hair to start. Now, I didn't need this wild hair. I needed this wild hair like I need a minus 21 degree wind chill. I mean, absolutely didn't need it at all. But, you know me, I get a bee in my bonnet. That's going to go from there. Now, what I did is I've got a piece now. This is the first time I've ever used 36 count linen, which actually isn't that much more difficult than 32 count to stitch on, honestly, since I've started it. But what I did was, this is a piece of 36 count. It's a fat quarter of 36 count opalescent heroic, which you can't really see anything here because the lighting is crappy, and this piece of fabric has a little bit less of the dramatic blue swirls than the other one. But at any rate, I got a piece of 36 count heroic from Picture This Plus. And what I did was, in order to be able to tell until I get some actual stitching done where I can tell which end is up, I just left the tag on it. And what I did was I drew an arrow pointing down so that I would know that that was the bottom of the piece. Because right now you can see all that I've gotten stitched, which is not really that much. You know, I mean, I know that that red is part of the flag. It's kind of the middle part. But I just wanted to make sure I wasn't going to screw anything up, so I left the tag on there. Because right now I am at the part of her dress that's like right down here by the very tip end of the flag. Right down here in that little part of the dress. So, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to... Because once I get started on the flag, then I'll know which end is up. But I just wanted to make sure when I first started that I didn't get my piece turned around. So yeah, so this is all that I've gotten done on her. And like I said, stitching on 36 count isn't really that much different than 32. I just make sure that I don't stitch on this one at night, because with the smaller fabric, if I'm tired, I'm going to start screwing things up. And so I'm only going to stitch on her when I'm, you know, really super alert, and because I don't want this piece to become a painful thing. I love this piece. It's been in my stash for nearly 18 years. So, well, I guess actually it would be 17, because it'll be the 17th anniversary of 9/11 in the fall. But yeah, well, fuzzy math this time of morning. So I'm really going to enjoy that piece. And so there's that. That is a part of my stash. Now the next one was actually the first stitch along. Now, given my propensity to just do what I want, when I want, how I want, I should never enter a stitch along, because I'm never going to actually be the one who's keeping up with it. And I admire people who can keep up with stitch alongs, because I can't. Case in point, Carolyn Manning, who she posts carolynmanningdesigns.com, I think is her website. She does amazing. I absolutely adore pretty much everything she has designed. She pretty much has a focus on patchwork quilt designs and crochet granny square designs. And for some reason, I really like geometric. I don't know why I really like geometric patterns, but I really like that sense of stability, I guess would be the word, although I'm not sure that's the right one. I just like the sense of knowing that it's easy to tell if you make a mistake on a piece that's geometric, because if it's not symmetrical, then you're screwed somewhere. So I like the sense of And I like the repetition of stitching geometric patterns, I think, too. And I don't know if this has anything to do with anything or not, but when I doodle, it's always shapes. I don't doodle people or animals or objects. I doodle shapes like diamonds and squares and triangles. And, that's kind of my go-to doodle. So I guess maybe it makes sense that I would enjoy stitching geometric, because maybe geometric stuff is just something I enjoy. I don't know how to explain it. But I decided, because I really liked the pattern and the colors she chose, that I would throw in with the Granny is No Square stitch along. Well, it seemed like a good idea at the time, but then other pieces I was working on deadlines took precedence, and you can see how much I got started. That was the very first month of the SAL. Didn't get any Granny Squares actually accomplished. So, yeah, this is proof of why I should never do a SAL. Or at least why I should never do a SAL when it's actually a SAL. Like maybe, how like Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery and all, they release their SALs after a while. And yeah, maybe I shouldn't participate in SALs when they're going on, because I'll never be the one to keep up with everything. But that's the little bit I started. So I definitely want to make some progress on this year. When I saw that she had created a Granny Square pattern, I was really impressed, because it was just the colors just popped, and it just looked like an afghan on a piece of cross-stitch fabric. And my mother crocheted some beautiful Granny Square afghans when I was a kid. She made one for my grandmother, and she made one for us. The dog eventually took over, and she crocheted some beautiful ones. She was kind of self-taught. I think if I remember her story, she told me that when I was in ballet class, like for the 1 year I did it, and when I was 6 years old, one of her friends whose daughter was in it at the same time I was, taught her how to crochet, just showed her. So my mother just visually learned how to crochet, and she made these beautiful Granny Square afghans. And a few years back, I guess it's been about 10 years now, I went to Webb's, which is in Northampton, and I took a crochet class and learned how to do it, because I can't learn just by, I'm not able to just learn by watching someone else do something. I need to have like detailed instructions to do something. And my poor mother tried to teach me how to crochet, but that was just disastrous. I felt bad for her. And so, I know how to crochet, and I've done a couple of afghans myself. So the theme really floated my boat, and hopefully I can make some progress on this year. I know that Carolyn Manning was like, well, just change up the colors to whatever colors you want to use, but I really liked the colors that she charted it with, because it reminds me of a lot of the vintage colors my mother used back in the day. So hopefully I can make some progress on that. I'm going to definitely put the hoop on and get the needle to work on this one some this year, and try to see if I can get at least a few Granny Squares out of it. But anyway, that is one piece that's in my whip pile. Now this next one, I don't have the pattern to show you because it's all PDF stuff, but I ordered this one on Etsy. And it's Though She Be the Little She Is Fierce, and I'm stitching that one for my niece. It's kind of her motto. I mean, given everything she's been through in her short life with the cystic fibrosis and whatnot, and the setbacks that it could cause her, she's just fearless. She's personally my hero because of everything that she's been through, and she doesn't let it stop her. She's a competitive dancer. She's doing very well in school. She doesn't let it define her. So I thought this piece would be really neat to do for her. It's basically got a crown at the bottom and the top, and then it's some really fancy typography that has the quote in the middle. I don't think I have a picture of it, because I think all I have is the printed pattern. But I also am enjoying this one because I love typography and different print styles. And if I really had a gander to start a new project, no, I don't have a picture of it. If I had a gander to start a new project right now, I would start the quotes stitch along that was the Stitch Rovia one, because I love how that looks with all that typography and the old school fancy writing and everything. I'm really into that, but I don't need another piece to start right now. But anyway, this is as far as I got, and I'm stitching it in the rayon and metallic DMC threads. I don't know what possessed me to try to stitch it in all specialty threads, but my niece is all about the bling anyway, so I thought it would be fun to do that. So we'll see how it works. I mean, right now it looks fine. I haven't gotten that much stitched of it, but right now the metallic floss looks pretty good. I think the teal and the purple. Now the rayon floss was interesting to work with on the crown, but it worked fine too. So I think I'll be good with it. It's just something I was making for her because it reminded me of her. Now I have 2 more projects in mind for my niece and nephew eventually, but I did see, what was it I was looking at the other day? Oh, I was looking at the 123 Stitch site, just looking, not buying, because I don't need to buy anything right now, but I saw the Nora Corbett 12 Days of Christmas. So I'm going to do the drummer for my nephew and the dancer for my niece, but not now. Oh, and please pardon the mess all over my hands. I had a fountain pen issue last night. Let's just put it this way. R2-D2 did not behave himself. Actually, Darth Vader was more behaved than R2 was last night. So, yes, I do have Star Wars fountain pens. And R2 was not very well behaved last night. But that'll come off when I take my shower later. It's weird because if washing my hands doesn't take the ink off, shampooing my hair does. Not sure what that says about what my shampoo does to my hair, but it works anyway. So that's another one I hope to make progress on. This was another one I was supposed to start last year with Dawn, and I never got back to it. It's the Dimensions, Winter Cardinals. This is literally all I got done. Now, I have to admit, I hate this fabric. I absolutely hate this fabric. It's blue Aida, but it is so stiff. It's 18 count Aida, which is not the problem. I'm not a snob against Aida fabric. It's just so stiff. It's terrible. I mean, it just feels so stiff and rough. But I got sidetracked by other projects, as I've been saying quite a bit, so that's as far as I got with it. But as much as I love cardinals, I want to get some work done on this one. And I've been watching Dawn's progress, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful piece when it gets done. So I just hope that I have the chutzpah to get back to this one, because it was. I mean, the minute I saw it, I actually think I found it on Amazon. I don't know what I was even looking for cross stitch on Amazon for, but you know, this is how I roll. I just find other things to do. Oh, Lordy, folks, I just need to stop. I just need to stop and get some things done, which is my goal for the year. We'll see. We'll see a few months from now how I feel about it. Now, this one is one that I've wanted to do for a long time. Now, there is backstory to it. My grandmother was an amazing baker. She loved to be in the kitchen, and she decorated her kitchen with roosters and chickens. That was just her thing. She loved roosters and chickens, and she decorated her kitchen with them. And I like to think that maybe I've gotten a little bit of my baking skills from her and my mom both. And this one I had my eye on for quite a while. You may remember this one, I posted about it in a much earlier video. But I've always wanted to do this as a tribute to my grandmother. This is the Permanent Copenhagen Rooster. I mean, aren't those colors amazing? I just absolutely, absolutely adore this one. Especially the tail. I mean, I don't know when I became a huge fan of teal, but green has always been one of my favorite colors, so I guess it makes sense that teal, being an offshoot of green, would be one of my favorite colors now. but the colors are just amazing. Now this one, I can't remember if I think I purchased it through Nordic Needle, and it's a special order because they're not going to import a bunch of these from Scandinavia if they're not going to sell them. So it took me about a month to get the kit, but I absolutely, oh, this is just gorgeous. So my parents, I guess it was in 2016. Yeah, it was 2016. My parents did a complete renovation of their kitchen at their house. And I didn't see it till this past Christmas, because in 2016 we did Christmas at my sister's house. But it's an amazing redo of their kitchen. I absolutely just love it. It's beautiful. They put in granite countertops. They extended the counters out to the edge of the wall, because before it was like the counter stopped at a certain place and came out and made a little island. That they extended the countertops all the way the length of the wall, put a center island in. It's really kind of like what I would consider like a farmhouse type aesthetic, because the cabinets are white and they're very rustic looking. But my favorite part of it is they have a china cabinet, a lighted china cabinet now that's built into the wall, which, you know, my mom inherited a lot of vintage, you know, bone china and crystal from her mother and her mother's relatives. And you know, it's not the stuff we ever use, but she wanted a way to display it, so she had it put in this china. She had them put in this china cabinet that had some recessed lights in it. I mean, it's beautiful. I love the china cabinet. My favorite part of the whole kitchen, besides the granite countertops and all the storage space. Because yeah, my little kitchen, it's sad. But so I wanted to stitch this as a tribute to my grandmother so that I could give this to my parents for their new kitchen. And I have started a little bit of it. It's really going to be an amazing piece. I love the colors in it. Like I said, the teal and the rooster's tail is just insane. And this is another piece that I had to put an arrow on the tag, because right now you can't tell which end is up because it's the middle of the rooster's body. But I've got a few stitches in, and the colors already so far are just amazing. And I'm stitching this on a piece of 32 count Lugana in the Chalice colorway from Picture This Plus, which I thought was a nice kind of burnished neutral that would work really well with the colors, especially like the orangish brownish part of the rooster in his body. So yeah, I want to make some progress on this one this year, because this is such an amazing pattern. But I couldn't bring myself to buy it for years. I mean, I've been wanting it for probably 15 years or so, but my grandmother passed away in 2000, and I just was not going to be in the mood to stitch anything like this for the longest time. So I finally ordered it in 2016. So it'll be quite interesting to watch this one unfold, just to see how the colors come together and how, you know, how the piece works out. So yeah, that one kind of got to me a little bit when I got it in the mail, because it made me think of my grandmother. But she loved roosters and she loved chickens, and that was her decorative style in her kitchen. And I like to think that when I do my baking, that she's with me, because she and my mom were pretty much the ones who got me into it when I was younger. Because like I said, in my mom's kitchen, the wall kind of stopped and there was a little bar area that came around the corner. So we had bar stools, and my mom would always work at that particular part of the counter when she was baking cakes and stuff. And I'd sit there and I'd watch her. And then when I was old enough to help her, I would help her out. So, you know, I mean, my mom and my grandmother really were the reason why I love to bake as much as I do now. You know, so I consider it a tribute to my grandmother in like a way that she'll always be with us. And, you know, I'm going to give it to my parents eventually. I've never told them about it, so I think they'll be surprised. I don't intend to tell them about it. I don't think they watch my videos, so we'll see. But that one will be an emotional one to do, but emotional in a good way, because it'll remind me of all the times my grandmother would, oh my gosh, I mean, there were only ever 5 or 6 of us at Christmas, but we always had baked goods and food for like 20 people. It was insane. And I miss those holidays. I miss them because, and I think that's why certain things today remind me of the holidays, like citrus and, toasted pecans and things like that. But anyway, I'm rambling now, and clearly the coffee hasn't kicked in yet. So this may be one of my most random videos I've ever done. So I apologize for that. But I just thought I would stop in. I'm going to stop now because I'm almost at 45 minutes, well, 40 minutes. And I want to be able to upload this today. So, plus, I want to be able to finish it before my husband gets up. So, I hope everyone is staying warm and has a good stitchy weekend. And until next time, I will see you soon. Bye.